For this video, I'm going to talk about jump servers. Imagine you have like a virtual network here, and inside it are three virtual machines, each part of their own subnets. So in subnet A on that virtual machine, it's acting as a web server, so it has IIS or Nginx or whatever. So it has port 80 open, and then in the virtual machine in subnet B next to it, it's acting as a database server. So the web server's communicating with that. And so jump server, it could also be Bastion host. So when it comes to administration, let's say the database server has a public IP, port 3389 is open. So let's say there's a workstation here, connects, through the internet, and wants to connect to the database server. It'll remote in using the port 3389 that we opened and connect to it through its public IP. So that presents a security concern because we don't want the database server to be open to the public, but we want them to be able to use it, and we want the web server to be able to communicate with the database server. So what do is we use a jump server. So how do we do that? Well, let's say we had these two virtual machines, the web server and the database server, is we create a third virtual machine in the virtual network. And let's say it's a Windows virtual machine, so we allow remote access to it, from the internet via port 3389. And then we use that machine to remote desktop into the web server if we want, or the database server. Through port 3389, we could open it up on the web if we want to. So it just provides like an additional layer of security that's going through it before it goes to the web server, the database server, and you do so through their private IP addresses because you're in the same virtual network. And by doing that, you don't even need, you could get rid of the public IP address of the database server, so it's not facing the internet. And obviously that third virtual machine we created that's acting as the jump server or the Bastion host will need a public IP so users can connect to it from the internet. So it's just users connecting to that, but it's not holding anything, meaningful or security related that you don't want the users to find out about. It's just acting as a jump server, and then you're jumping into the web server or the database server, and that's where you have data that you don't want to be compromised. But it's acting as like a barrier from the internet. And so that's the overview of a jump server.